Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Mavs Party. This is Kirk Henderson, editor-in-chief of MavsMoneyball.com. You are joining Pod Mavericks live show. This time, it's a party because the Dallas Mavericks won. Now. Let's get the elephant out of the room immediately, where some of you are wondering if you should be happy that the Dallas Mavericks won. Here's the thing, guys. Life is too short. Sports are supposed to be fun. Rooting for losses is not particularly fun. And when it became pretty clear that the Mavericks were going to beat the shit out of the Pacers, I just decided to lean in. In the game, we saw the Mavericks shoot roughly 50% from three, blow up any sort of Pacers opportunity to rebound back and kind of get in the game, despite the Pacers, rebounding dominance over the Mavericks. Dallas shot 50% from three, basically, and the Pacers didn't have much of a chance. This was a different kind of tank than against the Hornets. The Hornets have some pretty, some interesting athletic guys. The Pacers, while I enjoyed watching a few of their guys, they just didn't have it. And they also didn't shoot very well from three. So there wasn't really a chance for that to become something else. By the middle, by halftime, it was pretty clear the Mavericks were going to run away from it. So we will see where we're going. Just to start the show with a little bit of a change of pace. Pretty soon here, I'm going to be pivoting away from Spotify Live. The show I love Spotify Live. I think its barrier for entry is low. People can join on their phones. And I think that is really one of the things that's given this show a lot of oomph. But I am also getting kind of an opportunity to pivot hard into YouTube using StreamYard. I'll be able to host live shows, which will then simulcast to YouTube just like this. And if you guys are clicking the link and looking around for those sorts of things, you'll be able to join the show just like this, talk in the comments just like this, and come up and talk with me just like this. I think that will be a little bit bigger of a barrier for entry for some people, just because I'm really not entirely sure if you can join from your phone that way. I don't see why you couldn't, as long as you're on a kind of an internet connection. But I suppose some people, wanting to be seen is different than wanting to be talked to. And that may be too much for people. But I really do hope you consider hanging out with me, and we'll see what's up. Brett in the thing says, I wonder if we'll get more toxic commenters. So as far as I understand it, with the StreamYard app, because it casts to YouTube, if you actually wanted to join the show, you have to still join through StreamYard. So I would be tweeting out the link and posting the link, and you would have to join through that if you wanted to come up on and actually talk on the show. We might get more ridiculous comments, but from other people that I've talked to kind of around the industry that use this, it will be not dissimilar, and I'll still have the ability to police the way we do in here. So we'll see where we go. I'm going to post, Josh and I posted our podcast up there tonight. So in the comments, giving you the opportunity to subscribe, and I'm going to have to figure out kind of the difference between what I'm doing with StreamYard and this. So, excuse me, I had to cough there. We'll figure this out. It's going to be a little wonky. I don't really know what I'm doing. And it's, I didn't really know what I was doing with this either. And at one point we had when Mark Stein joined that one time, Mark Stein, Kevin O'Connor. We had something like 10,000 people in here at once. It was preposterous. So we'll see. All right. Why don't you come up on stage, guys? Let's talk and hang out for a little bit, but maybe let's get out of Dodge with this one faster than we did these previous 2 nights. We did over 3 hours of post game venting following the losses to the Hornets, which is fine. I had a great time talking, but I must say that I am a bit tired. So thanks so much for coming in here. All right, coming up first, we're gonna go to my man Ewan. You're gonna. I'm sorry for doing this so late for you East Coasters. What's going on?
Hey, what's up? Ain't much. Good win to get back on the win side, so that feels good.
Yep. Did you? What my favorite part of the game was? It was not the pass. It was the fact that Jaden Hardy fucking made the shot.
Yeah, we have a history of them selling out Luka's crazy assists.
He has been robbed by Maxey and by Bullock so many times. So it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, that was fun. That was fun, that part of it at least.
Did you see the other crossover that he hit when the guy slid pretty much like to the free throw line, but he missed the shot? That was nasty too.
I'm liking the handles more and more. And the handles and sort of the drivability, he was awful at the rim in the G League. Like awful. And his kind of confidence growing is very pleasing. After not playing much last night, it was good to see him get a lot tonight.
Yeah, you can see, not from the last Charlotte game, but the one at home where we lost, you can see how Luka was trusting him in that fourth quarter of that game. And then he was looking for him, those back-to-back threes. So Luka and Kyrie have a good trust in him, and they trust that, he's not scared. He's going to be ready for the moment to either take the shot or do whatever he got to do. So that's good to see going forward.
That's right.
And, lastly is just, we got to, appreciate Luka, man. Like all his, his little shortcomings he got with his temper. And, man, listen, he's amazing, man. He's amazing. So I know we appreciate him, but sometimes we take him for granted how good he is and how simple he makes certain things look. Because if you look at that video that passed to Miles Turner, he had his hand on his head. He was like, "Oh my God," he couldn't believe it happened. So I was just like,
I've never seen something quite like that. Because let's talk. So I can't remember how high the bottom of a backboard is in the NBA, but I can still touch it, which means it's not that high up. And so you consider Luka's height. You consider that he's falling out of bounds. You consider that he also has to jump a little bit. The sheer angle seems impossible. Like, I don't know how he didn't hit the bottom of the backboard. It was wild.
Yeah. And he was double teamed. And it's like all the players around the league, I love when they just see stuff happens and they tweet about it. And everybody, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And that's like regular stuff us Mavs fans see on a daily basis watching him every night. It's good. I mean, yeah. And I mean, lastly, it was great to have a top 10 pick, but I've always said I like the playoff experience, especially for Hardy. If we do make a play-in, even if we don't go nowhere, at least that 7-game series, if he's able to get some playing time, would be good for him. And Josh Green building his confidence, so that'll be important if we do get a, maybe a playing spot and then we make the playoffs. And then lastly is like, I also want to see what Kyrie and Luka can do in the playoffs. Even if it's just 4 games, I would just like to see a series of them dissecting the other team and what they can really do together in that kind of atmosphere for a game series. So, other than that, Luka's amazing, man. I mean, Luka's amazing. And lastly, Joel Embiid is resting to deal with Dwight Powell on Wednesday, so prepare ourselves.
Or JaVale McGee, like Dustin breaking the rust off JaVale McGee, only to see JaVale get just like very mean things have happened to him is not fair.
But JaVale showed some, athleticism that we've been wanting from position tonight. That dunk was pretty nasty too. That was, yeah. Well, all right, man. Wednesday, hopefully another dub. So we'll see.
Well, thanks so much for starting us off. All right. Coming up next, my man Chris. Chris, what's going on? You had to drop off the other night. Sorry about that. I didn't get you in time.
Oh, no. It's that whole Charlotte game. I just I listened halfway through. I'm like, man, I can't. I just got to go on to the next game, and hopefully we win. And I know some people are, rooting for losses, but I really feel like, okay, so we won tonight. We got 6 games left. Win 4 of them, and 3 of them are home games. So even if you lose to the Sixers and maybe the Heat, I mean, if you can win out, so we only have tiebreaker against just the Lakers. There's no other team that's in this play-in race that we have tiebreakers with. I know we don't on the Thunder.
I don't know any of the tiebreakers. I kind of don't want to know any of it. It's like it's like a surprise every day where I'm opening.
Yeah, because I watched Mavs live. I think I was hearing Brian Damaris in the background. I don't think we have against Minnesota. I mean, I know Utah might lose tonight, so I don't have to worry about them, but they're below us. So, yeah, they're just going to have to win games. But I do like seeing JaVale McGee out there, and I'm kind of wondering he only got 2 rebounds, but his post presence there was one play where just his presence there made the other guy second guess himself, and he ended up traveling.
Sure.
And
sure.
I don't know. I just felt like, well, what if he was in some of these games? Like maybe they wouldn't have gotten so many easy baskets. So I know he's got his quirks. He's king of Shaqtin' the Fool. I get it. But man, Powell makes a lot of mistakes. Maxey makes a lot of mistakes. I mean, and they're still out there. I know probably why McGee was out there more was because Maxey wasn't playing tonight. But I mean, he's long and he is a post presence there. I mean, and that's what we need right now. And he's a vet. He even said in the post game interview that there's a lot of players out there, but there's very few professionals, and he keeps himself ready. I don't know. There's just times when he doesn't play much. When he comes back in, I feel like he has an impact somewhat. So I'm glad they won. I don't want them to tank, but if they lost tonight, I'd be like, maybe they should. So
well, I mean, that's sort of what's challenging when you look at the teams that they're playing. The Sixers, for all intents and purposes, should wax Mavericks.
And they rested Embiid tonight, and he's probably going to be
Harden
fresh
too.
for Wednesday.
Harden also didn't play. So it's
correct.
And they're making a playoff push themselves, and I think that they're going to want to get back a win after playing Denver, and so it's like that's sort of on paper. You're curious about that, and so there's just enough of this to make you wonder. Where like I'm looking, let me just pull up the schedule. I should keep open tabs on my computer.
I know off the top of my head. I'll tell you, Wednesday. I'm not even looking at anything, but yeah, Wednesday we play the Sixers. Yeah, I think Friday we play the Heat.
See, and the Heat have been on a heater.
The Butler.
And so it's like then you play Atlanta, Sacramento, Chicago, and all 3 of those teams still have play-in. Obviously Sacramento's looking to clinch and just ride as far as they can go.
Well, I feel like Sacramento because we're playing them the third last game of the season. I'm thinking if they, I'm wondering if they might rest.
I'm sure they might, but they still might beat us with rested guys. Like that's like the Mavericks defense is just. Oh yeah, bad.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're right. It just sucks this season. This has been that season where it's like you go into a game, you're like, oh yeah, we should win and then we ended up getting beat by a player with his last name Thor. I never even heard of him ever.
Sure.
I mean, it's been like, how many games have we gone in? There's a third string players that are just trying to prove themselves. And they're like, oh, I'm playing Luka and Kyrie, or most of the season, I'm playing the Dallas Mavericks and Luka. I got to show out, or at least try to show out so much they can get a contract. I mean, and then they end up getting 30, 35 points on us. That really sucks. But glad to get a win. We've got to win. We've got to win like 4, maybe 5 of these games. But that would be nice because we owe the tiebreaker on the Lakers. That would be nice. The very last game of the season, we ended up tying with them, and but damn it, if we're gonna make the play-in, don't make the 9th and 10th seed. Get the damn 7th, 8th seed.
See, and that's where it's difficult because you look at these games, and you think in order to do that, they're gonna have to go 500 or 4-2. Like, and I don't think that's possible. I just don't.
I don't know, man. With this team,
I feel
like it's always the opposite of what we think. They could be coming in there. They could kick the Sixers' ass. Like, we've already beaten them, but I'm saying I know we're playing in Philly, but we still have Luka and Kyrie. And if they go off, and we can somewhat hold it down, and maybe JaVale McGee might have another impactful game. We just need some stops here and there. But if you got Luka going for like 45 points and then Kyrie going for 35, I mean, do decent on defense, you just never know. And hopefully other team will have an off night. But yeah, I do want at the same time, man, I do want that draft pick, man. I don't want to give anything more to the Knicks.
Sure.
But we still got, like 6 games left. Let's just hopefully we can go on a win streak here. But I did subscribe to the YouTube thing. I'm kind of glad you guys are doing that. Is it making it possible where you can, when we accept the call, do they see the video on us, or is it just the audio?
I'm pretty sure it's video on you because I've used it to join other people's shows. I could do it.
What if you're on the toilet or something? I mean, what do you do?
See, and then I would probably click away. I'm still learning how to use the damn thing. Like, I got kind of a tutorial from a friend today because the service is Streamcast and it lets me do a lot of cool shit. But I got to use, it's riding a bike. I got to use it before I can really figure elements of it out, even if I do like read all the manuals and stuff. So we'll see. I'm sure it'll be a shit show. We had that, you've been coming to these for 2 years. Some of these in the beginning were rough, but it's talking basketball with people. It's no different than being at a,
I'm subscribed to you guys now, and the only 2 subscriptions I have is the Mavericks, Metallica, and then the Angry Video Game Nerd.
Sure. I just don't use YouTube. I have never, I do to like look up specific stuff, but it's like it's a whole ecosystem that I am not familiar with. So good luck to Josh and I, but thank you so much.
We all appreciate you and you and Josh and all the Mavs money, whatever y'all want to Pod Maverick. I mean, we really appreciate all y'all's hard work. We really do.
Oh, sure thing, bud. All right. We'll talk soon. All right. Mm-hmm.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. One of the things I love about Indeed is it makes hiring all in one place so easy and streamlined so I can spend more time on the rest of my business. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Let's go. Name I don't recognize. Peter, welcome to the show. How you doing? Oh, I remember Peter. Sorry, it's been a while. Hit if you're in the chat, pull out using the button in the top left and hit the unmute button, which is on the bottom of the.
Got it. Thanks, Kirk. And yeah, appreciate you continuing to hold these through this trying season. Yeah.
I mean, what else?
I don't know if you remember me. I don't know if you remember me as Pete West on Mavs Moneyball, a constant curmudgeon. I don't have the time to comment as much as I used to, but also arguing with people online is something I'm trying to do a bit less of. But anyways, trying season, right? I've tried to be an eternal optimist through the whole thing, like optimist post Brunson, leaving, optimist through going 500 through the whole season. Optimist post Kyrie and us falling down the standings, and then finally after those 2 losses to the Hornets, I finally gave up, and then they turn it around a little bit today, but yeah, man, I think one of the biggest things that's been kind of baffling to me this season is we had so much success, and this is more of a recent criticism of the Mavs, is we had so much success with kind of 3 wings around Luka and another creator, and 2 wings around Luka and Brunson and Maxey in the playoffs, and then we have a lineup that can sort of approximate that with Bullock, Green, Maxey, Luka, and Kyrie, and that lineup has played 8 minutes. And we're sitting here losing games to the Hornets. I'm like, what are we saving it for?
I don't, that's why I get back. I talked about this on Twitter a little bit, talked about it a lot. Like, I don't think they understood why they won last year. Because to complain about, complaining is not fair. Yes, they got waxed on the boards by the Golden State, but they got waxed on the boards all postseason. They seeded that, and they hit a ton of threes, and they played really good defense. And so instead of finding another wing defender, they went and got JaVale McGee. And I just sort of failed because this year has really been about Bullock and Dorian up until he was traded, really taking significant steps back as defenders, point of attack or help defenders. And then just seeing how important Maxey was to the defense to the point to where they over-relied on him. And Maxey will give you 25 minutes a game on a night-in, night-out basis, probably 30 to 32 minutes in a playoff game if you really need him. But he was like him and Bullock were just linchpins. And after Maxey's come back, it's not, I didn't expect him to be the same. He tore his damn hamstring. So it's like, I've not really understood the entire team construction. And so they've been going with this one big lineup for much of the year because it feels like Kidd went away from 2 bigs early in the season because it wasn't great. And he's been going 1 big for much of the season. Then he went back to 2 for a while. And then these last 3 games, he's gone back to 1. And it's like, I just don't think he had any idea why they won. And the coaching staff makes me feel that way because I don't really what does Jared Dudley do? I'm genuinely confused about a whole lot about this season. And I feel like the Mavericks are too, because it's like, if you bring back most of the same guys, having this much of a turnaround cannot be just because a couple of guys are a little bit older. There's just, this season doesn't make any.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think you cut out a little bit for me. So I'm sorry. I apologize for you. Yeah. So deep down inside, I still believe that Kidd thinks he's saving this, lineup for the playoffs because it's the only lineup that makes sense for this roster, which is, the Bullock, Green, Kyrie, Luka, and Maxey. 8 minutes to this point in the season is just baffling to me. So I'm hoping to see it more.
Who do you have guard? Just question with that. Is Green kind of your other big in that lineup? Who is?
I would say Luka's the 4.
Okay. I can see that. Yeah, and then you kind of hide him on a bigger guy and make him box somebody out. Okay.
It's not ideal, and it's not going to replace Dorian, but I still feel like that is the only viable lineup.
Well, if Luka would just challenge a shot more often, it would make all the difference in the world. But I would like to see that now, I guess. What's the harm?
And just a couple last points. If Tim and Wood are on the team next year, I might find a new team. No, I kid, but I honestly think Wood has been one of the biggest reasons that our defense is so much worse this year. And then just lastly, my optimism is it's back after one game against a Pacers team without a lot of their best players. But all I want to say is no one wants to see, kind of locked in Game 7, Kyrie and Luka in a play-in situation.
Yes. Yeah. I tend to agree. But in a 1-game situation, those guys are either going to run you off the floor or they're going to fold like a chair. I think for the long-term success of the organization, I think them not tanking, because I don't think they can tank, because tanking is intentionally losing. Getting a lottery pick would really matter. The top 10 pick would really matter. There's 2 or 3 guys I think that they would or they could trade out of it. I don't care. But if they're not going to do it, then I really hope that they really push, if they go on a 5-1 run to close this out, that's what they have to do. I'm open to all options at this point. I'm trying not to get to it. I like the draft because it's just very different content after 82 games of slog. And we just, as Mavs fans, we don't get to talk about it because they never have picks. Did you see that Bobby Marks thing? I don't know if it was accurate. Somebody told me it wasn't true, but that Bobby Marks said the Mavs don't have a 2nd-round pick for 7 years. And I'm just like, Jesus. I like team building stuff, and they just limit themselves when they're not doing it, when they don't draft.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, and I'm with you. I could get behind either route. I think like my natural inclination is, just based on the Western Conference Finals run and seeing Luka play in the playoffs, just being such a dog, and Kyrie the same way. I think I kind of lean towards wanting to see them get in, but I agree. I could get behind either route. But hey, Kirk, thanks for having me up.
Sure thing, Pete. Talk soon. All right, let's go to Micah. Micah, what's up, man? Welcome.
What's going on, Kirk? Can you hear me?
There we go. I love your connection. It's like we're talking through a CB radio and it's 1984. It's my favorite thing.
Oh, man. Hey, decent win, I guess. But, yeah, I tend to agree with what you're saying. I don't think they know why they won, but I do think they know why they lost. And the problem is they press why they lost with fucking Christian Wood and JaVale McGee. And this is where we're at. So, I mean, I will say this, though. Seeing a game like this, it continues to prove my point. You got to have some form of size on the court to compete with anybody. It's just like the Golden State game last night was like a perfect example of it. They played against Minnesota. Now I was looking at the box score minutes, and I saw that Jonathan Kuminga was only getting like 10 minutes, and it's almost the end of the game. I'm like, okay, they're going to lose because when he's not out there and Andrew Wiggins isn't out there, they have the exact same problem. They're asking a 6'4" guy to do a 6'8" guy's job. And that's what you end up with. You put yourself at a physical disadvantage to pretty much all the other 29 teams when your roster is constructed or your lineup is constructed that way. That's why it looks so bad against Charlotte is they have now, no mistake, they're bad. But at the same time, they have big athletic dudes, and that's the kind of people that will give us problems. And I don't care what the team is exactly.
Well, they just have so many fundamental issues, and that's what this has exposed. If you've not read Josh Bowe's piece on MavsMoneyball.com, he wrote about kind of other super duper stars and where they were at age 24, and it's not hyperbole. Luka and the Mavericks are in the worst situation of any of these teams. Like not making the playoffs 5 years in, which is a real thing the Mavericks are staring at the face, is basically unheard of. And you cannot pin that on Luka. You pin that on the organization.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I read that article. What do those other superstars have in common? I can tell you that none of those guys played with a lineup that had four guys on the court that were under 6'8" at any time. That's just not winning basketball. We got sold this bill of goods about small ball, and that's just not winning basketball. Even Warriors, we got sold this idea that they were playing this tiny lineup to win these championships, and that's just not the case. Like, in the two championships that they lost, they got out physical in both of them. And, like, if you look at the ones that they won, they all had that same component of having a bigger wing out there. But now you look at, they're just as bad as us. That's what's funny is everybody wants to clown and say, oh, look at Luka and Kyrie. Kyrie's a locker cancer. He can't work. Okay, dude. Y'all want to say all that crap? Talk about your guy getting his ass whooped by Andre Drummond. Sure. Talk about your guy being told by Patrick Beverly he's too small, since y'all want to laugh and crack jokes. Talk about that, Mr. Stan Network. But anyway, that's beside my point. We can
I
go.
like it. I like it. Little spice.
Little spice. But it's just funny. It's we've been told by all these guys that the Mavericks suck. And of course I agree. They're not doing nothing. Of course I agree. But they will sit there and try to sell us that the Lakers are somehow magically going to become a decent basketball team and knock off Denver. But they're out here getting bitched by Chicago. Come on, man. Sell that to somebody else.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just team building is hard. They have to accept the fact that you need size to compete.
Yeah.
I'm not in the tanking deal. I want to get done with the deal I just want to be done with the New York deal. And there was part of me that was kind of wanting Mitchell Robinson because I feel like he'd be a good fit. But then the other side of me is I don't want to do no more deals with the damn Knicks.
Sure.
I'm done.
Yeah, same teams trading over and over again is upsetting. But yes. So, well, thank you so much, Micah. Appreciate you joining.
We switched back. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. There's always a slight delay between you and I when we're chatting, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Coming up next, Brandon. What's going on, my guy?
Kirk, I'm well. I think it was a needed win. Chuck Cooperstein was talking about how the bench is having fun, and it's been a long time since those guys actually had fun, and that's so true. So for whatever reason, hopefully that builds up some type of camaraderie amongst those guys, even for the little the short term, to give them some type of sense of accomplishment, because it's been terrible. 2023 has been a terrible time for them guys. So it's a small achievement. Not a lot, but it's something. Even if it's against the loathsome Pacers.
Sure. Rick Carlisle finding a new way to hurt the Mavericks. Even through winning, he hurts the Mavericks. But we all watch for wins, so I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, man. And classic Rick, man. Every increase in the lead, that dude's calling a timeout. I'm like, man, no matter where this guy go, he got some.
He challenged the damn foul of 30 points. Like, come on, Rick, we want to go to bed.
Knowing Rick, he probably was ready to get thrown out the game. Like, screw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude, he'll get thrown out the game quick over some petty stuff too. Man, but Kirk, I don't know. So I'm thinking in the worst case scenario where the Mavs do get a lottery pick, and let's say they get a lottery pick and they get Kyrie. Next year, would you ever think about not drafting but trading that pick and Kyrie to hit a slight reset to get some type of young asset and future draft picks, or just
I saw somebody today say that if the Mavericks lucked into a top 4 pick, which is where the lottery, that's what the lottery's for, is establishing those top 4 guys, to call the Nets immediately for Mikal Bridges. Somebody else saw something that's like, well, if we got number 1 overall, would you seriously consider, sending it to Toronto for a ransom between their players and maybe another pick down the line? And I wouldn't, because I like the draft. I like building through the draft. I don't I think certain things are shortcuts. We have seen what happens when Jaden Hardy, who I think we would all agree that Jaden Hardy probably should have been a top 20 draft pick. I don't know where he would go in that range, but I do think he wasn't pick 37. So what? And we've seen where Josh Green has gone. If you consider him basically a second-year player at this point, playing with Luka, what do you do if you pair Luka with an honest-to-God blue chipper? That excites the shit out of me. Some of these guys that are in this draft, your Scoot Henderson, a Victor Wembanyama, either of the Thompson twins. I'm sorry, I just get excited at that concept. There's a number of these guys. And Vladi in the chat says, Kirk, but can they contribute next year? Rookies don't contribute to winning if the team sucks. if the team is good, that'd be fine. Like we want, like if I really earnestly think, like if your rookie, star rookie, whatever, top 5 draft pick is your 4th best player in a lineup, I really think you can win because you would have Luka, you would have Kyrie. Like I'm really sold on this as a concept, and I think it might be me getting a little high on hopium, but Jim Camp says Brandon Miller is the real deal. Brandon Miller is going to be 21 in October. Like That's a plug and play wing. Yes, like there's part of the reason why he's kicking the shit out of everybody is he's 2 years older than all the other best players. And so there's a lot to love with these guys. Yeah. And I love the concept because I wanted the Mavs to build through the draft for years, and they simply wouldn't do it. It drives me crazy because in 2003, you'll remember this, the Josh Howard draft, the Marquise Daniels unrestricted free agent draft, like he was a guy that they picked up the same way they got J.J. Barea and then Dorian Finney-Smith down the road. Then 2 years later, they have Devin Harris, who they sent away Antoine Jameson for Jerry Stackhouse and that pick. Like young, top-notch talent can make a big difference. And I think we are sort of like, we're all sort of about it because we see these lotto teams. You see like the Magic be terrible, but we have the part that matters, Luka. Everything else is what you can add through. And so I don't know. That's my opinion. I think the Mavericks would trade the pick because they never fucking do what I want them to. I sold my soul apparently to get them to draft Luka, and then everything after that has been Garbo.
Right. I don't know. It seems like, and I could be wrong, but it seems like the NBA goes through these dynamic shifts because everybody's trying to play catch-up to the latest trend. The Big Three was the latest trend. And now that they're saying that the Big Three doesn't, is sustainable because of contracts and egos, they're trying to get a big and a nice guard. So now you have a situation in Milwaukee. So, trends that happen so far down the line. So who's to say 2 years that if Dallas do get a nice big, if that trend's going to be there. But I don't know. I think drafting is good, but I don't know. It seems like to me, if you have, it's kind of like a top heavy roster. How would you keep those guys? You know what I mean? Golden State did well because everybody took a cut.
Well, they're how much money their roster costs. They're the benefit of drafting well. Their roster is like $450 million a year or whatever it is because they're paying guys that they drafted, and you can do that. There's a discussion going on for the next CBA about the abolishment of elements of the repeater tax, like some of that stuff, because Golden State is making the argument that it's not fair that they have to pay extra for the fact that they built the team the way that the NBA wants teams to do. So,
right. Yeah, but that's our argument with Uncle Sam about I should have to pay my taxes. But it seems I don't know, man. I agree with you, but it seems to me that Dallas is so much, I guess you could say, in the deficit on talent and financially on the cap that it would make sense to break it down into incremental parts. So maybe trade, if they get a top 4, maybe trade down for like a 5 or a 6 and a future first or something like that, or maybe package one of those first with Kyrie for something else if that isn't working out.
I do think the Kyrie thing's working out though. Like it's, I really, really do. I think the question, about Kyrie and Luka is that Luka needs to be a better defender and Kyrie needs to be a better defender, but they also need to be surrounded by better defenders. Like it's a team concept thing,
Yeah. Scheme as well too. I don't know if you remember the coach that came from Wyoming that stayed a year in Dallas and went to Florida. It seems like he was the only coach on the Dallas roster that had some head coach experience.
We're talking Mosley,
you know what I mean?
Jamal Mosley?
Not Mosley. He was a coach of Wyoming. He got mad. He left, and now he's the head coach at the University of Florida.
I have to look this up because I can't remember who you're talking about.
He just stayed like a year. He didn't stay very long. But seems like he's the only coach that has some form of head coach experience. The rest of them are like Daryl Armstrong, Dudley, guys that were, players that have some type of background. And I kind of wonder if scheme is something that, like these teams that do well, they bring in an ex head coach, kind of like Golden State and Sacramento did to I can't think of Cleveland's old coach name, but they brought in some type of person with head coach experience to kind of help sell the ship, and it seems like Dallas doesn't have that coaching experience on the bench, so I don't know. It seems like scheme is a huge issue, so you run into the deer in the headlights with the whole coaching staff, and all these big mistakes.
Well, I mean, I don't care. Like, they have too many coaches that we don't know what they do. It feels like a dereliction of responsibility. You have 10 or 11 head associate coaches and one head coach who doesn't run practice. Like, the coaching thing is almost a whole different thing.
Yeah. I guess in some ways it could go back to, like, some people say you can't coach talent. I don't know. But yeah, but definitely, I would definitely say, just one more thing, like I said, I would definitely say, to me, I would trade down at least, try to build up some type of assets, just to have something for the future. But yeah, I think it was a good win, even if it was against the Wilson Pacers. It was still something that made those guys come together and play well.
Well, I do it. I had to explain to one friend of mine who was asking, I was like, I don't think they could have lost if they tried, because the guys that they were running out there tonight, the Hornets, it's not, I keep wanting to call them the Bobcats. The Hornets have some athletic guys that can give the Mavericks problems. Like they were just enough, and they punched the Mavericks in the mouth just enough for 2 straight games to win that. The Mavericks shooting was gonna kick in at some point, and we got that tonight.
At third quarter, especially, man.
A lot of points. All right, man. Thanks for hanging out. Mm-hmm. Let's go next then to Adam. Welcome, Adam. What's up?
Hey, Kirk. I just want to start by saying I hope everybody takes the time to find and follow you on StreamYard and YouTube, and thanks for all you do. I'm
gonna be super annoying about spamming links. People are gonna be tired of that by the end, but.
Actually, I think it's clear to everybody that you could monetize this more, but you definitely go the egalitarian approach and want to be as inclusive as possible. So I hope everybody kind of takes that into account. But yeah. I wanted to actually kind of jump on kind of a point you made the other night about clutch games with the Mavericks, and actually it was in an article that I think one of your writers, Jordan, wrote a few days ago. I think it was before the games with the Hornets. I think he was saying since February 1st, the Mavericks had played the most clutch games in that like 19 games. I think they were like
it's something ridiculous. Yes.
Yeah, they were like 7-10, and now it's like 7-12 with the 2 losses to the Hornets. They were like I think they were 25th in clutch win percentage. During that time. It's just so I want to take a different tack. Is it possible that just the fairy tale season last year was like the best case scenario, and this is just luck that it's just gone the other way? Because or is it possible that just Brunson was just a really great kind of game manager at the end of games, and when maybe Luka's decision making wasn't the best, that being able to pass the ball off to Brunson to manage, a few of the possessions down the stretch made that big of a difference? What do you think?
I do. I think that the three-headed attack, the ball handlers didn't necessarily work like we felt it did once you got into the numbers. But having 3 different options, running 2 of them on the floor at any moment really helped. And the Mavericks are just so damn vanilla right now. Did you see the Haralabob thread today about like kind of criticizing how vanilla the Mavericks offense is?
No, what did he say?
He basically is like, what the hell are you doing having Kyrie stand in the corner all the time? Which I think is something we've all kind of asked. And I got a couple of responses to that. Josh and I talked a little bit about this on the post-game show. The first response is that, number one, even with Luka or Kyrie in the corner, the Mavericks offense whips. Like, it ultimately kind of doesn't matter. That's how good they've been. But then the second response was from my friend Matt Moore of the Action Network. Said when he asked about this, he said one coach responded with, well, when you bring your two best players together to run actions, that means you're usually bringing together the two best defensive players from the other team. So that can kind of cause its own problems. Like you're bringing two of the best defenders to the ball, which I thought was an interesting response.
That's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting.
So it's I don't know. I mean, I do think there's a lot to criticize about both Kidd's offense and Luka's kind of wanting to run the same thing on repeat. Luka gave an answer post game tonight about like liking to run pin downs where he's off ball because it means he can rest. And it's like, Jesus Christ, man, stop feeding into the narrative. But you know, there's a lot that we can go on with this. It's like they do need to run more complex sets, getting Luka doing stuff off ball instead of just getting him to different points on the floor where he can initiate the offense from this, you know. Oh, Luka's going to post up on the left wing. Oh, Luka's going to post up at the top of the key. They occasionally do really wild, cool shit. It's just they don't do it often enough. And I feel like they're saving it for the playoffs that may never come.
It's kind of similar to what one of the previous callers was talking about. That's just so funny to me to think that Jason Kidd is playing 3D chess right now and just holding back specific player combos as if he was like Steve Kerr with Steph and KD pick and rolls in 2018 or something.
So
it's just like
I got to read this because Ben in the chat answers your question in a way that I didn't. He said Brunson's mid-range game would settle a wild game down. He didn't hurt you as bad as Luka as a defender, and he was just super efficient. And I think that's the mid-range stuff is what the Mavericks have missed outside of Luka. It's a great take, man.
That makes a lot of sense. He killed Utah with that mid-range game. You know, I mean, he was probably, you know, towards the end of that series, one of the main reasons why Utah just, you know, eventually kind of detonated. But last thing, a lot of people want to talk. So you're talking about kind of just the ineptitude of the drafting or just the unwillingness to draft and keep their current position. I was almost thinking like last year, right? Walker Kessler. It's like that saying, right? When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Like Walker Kessler was the Naismith defensive player of the year. Like, how did that guy drop to 22 in the draft? You know, it's like, and so I think what Dallas had the 26th pick that they eventually, you know, traded to Houston in the Christian Wood trade, right? Like what would this team look like with Walker Kessler as the center? You know, like would you even have like traded for Kyrie at that point? You know,
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think they would have been because, you know, you go back and look at the games this team lost in the first 40 games, there were at least 10 that were true coin flips or utter meltdowns. And you win 5 more games this entire season. I think we're bitching about Jason Kidd nonstop, but everybody's saying, hey, look at that. Look, they're fine. They're on the they're at the top of the pile in the rough and tumble mid-tier West. They'll get better next year. I mean, I don't want to say these losses are good because I don't think that's the case. But like we talked at the beginning of the year about how this was a take your medicine year. This has been take your medicine and then some, because we've really seen how years and years of mistakes can add up, because you end up doubling down and doubling down and doubling down, and then you might be left with nothing.
Yeah. Last thing, maybe like a, you know, cherry, you know, just like a rosy perspective on this. Let's say, you know, Dallas somehow gets into the 8th seed. I think they match up pretty well with Denver, who struggles sometimes scoring. You know, you score 125 on Denver and somehow, yeah, it'd be fun. I could see them, you know, maybe beating them. Then let's say the Clippers take out Phoenix in the first round, right? Like, Luka just kills the Clippers, right? Like,
I never want to see Clippers again, though. Like, I have post-traumatic stress disorder from those games. Like, that was watching Luka put up 46 and 14 as the Clippers beat them by 20 is so painful. But yeah, I understand why you like that.
Yeah, but yeah, I appreciate.
Of course, buddy. Talk soon. I did want to address something I saw in the chat a little while ago where Adam was kind of a different Adam was talking about Luka's leadership. The one thing that I want to talk about in relation to Luka and leadership is the fact that he is a 24-year-old man. I think about where I was at 24 a lot when I see these sort of things. When I saw his kind of post-game comment the other day about, you know, he's working through some stuff right now. We don't know what those things are. Not really our business. It's okay. And I think that being a vocal leader is not something that comes naturally to him. He has always been on teams up until the last couple of years where he was the young buck listening to the old guy. Dirk Nowitzki talked about this too. It is not something that just happens overnight. I do think that Luka gets there. But I do think that we have also kind of collectively watched them. They took away – we wanted them to cut J.J. Barea. At least I did. And then they moved on from Barea, and he clearly had an important role. We wanted them to have Dragic or someone in the locker room this year. And they've just missed that thing. Brunson was it last year. It's okay. Brunson's – he's not a young man, but he's an experienced guy. He's a leader in a couple of different teams. And so it's that sort of thing is something I think Luka absolutely grows into over the course of his career. He's too smart. He's too good a basketball player. I've often felt that some other superstars and the leadership things that they do are a little too contrived. A particular Los Angeles Laker that leads the NBA all-time in scoring. I feel like a lot of what he did, if you remember the Heat 2011, like pregame, they would show them in the tunnel, like the videos. And LeBron still does that hokey horse shit to this day. Leadership is not performative. Leadership is something that happens in small ways. Dirk did it. Dwayne Wade did it a lot. I think that we will see that with Luka eventually. Anyways, that's my diatribe. Who's last? Oh, Sam. Sam, sorry to make.
What's going on, Kirk?
I'm good. Thanks for waiting.
Oh, no problem. I actually wanted to go back to the point that you made earlier. I was actually going to write a thread about it because I was so mad about the last. I was just thinking about the whole season as a whole, and I just had a whole thread that I wanted to write. But I kind of go through it right here real quick. So you were talking about Golden State, the way they built their team with Steph, Steph, Clay, Draymond, and everybody. You remember 2015, they signed Steph to a 4-year, $44 million.
Yeah, his ankles were rubber bands at that point.
Exactly. So they didn't know, hey, we don't want to give him close to the max because you didn't know. So they were smart, and Steph was, obviously a team player. He knew what was going on, so he accepted the deal, and then the rest is history. So they were able to build a team, and then, the cap just happened to go up one year, and because of that contract, they were able to get KD. So that's that. Whereas with the Mavericks, which I've always said, I feel like for the last year and a half, when you have an opportunity to get an asset or use an asset, they don't do it. With Rick Carlisle, you can trade a coach for a pick.
That, to me, is the most blatant example of Cuban thinking this is show friends, not show business. Like, that shit was insane to me.
Yeah. Like, I always remember the Doc Rivers trade when the Boston traded him to the Clippers and they got a pick. Like, get a pick. When you get Porzingis, don't say, hey, you know what? We haven't seen you play for a year. We're going to give you a 5-year max. Don't do that. Like,
it's bargaining against yourself.
Right. It's little things like that just make you wonder, do these guys really know what they're doing? Because you get something like that, and now you're hamstring, so now you got to trade for Spencer Dinwiddie, but then you got to add a Davis Bertans and a second-round pick to it.
Yeah.
So it's little things like that. And even like the Josh Green thing. He didn't play his first year because, Rick and rookies or whatever, even though he's been playing rookies the last couple of years, so that's even neither here nor there. But you have Josh Green. If he even showed a little bit of promise, you could say, hey, you know what? We might be able to use him in a trade for a second-round pick. Something. Anything. Yeah. And that's what makes me excited about the Jaden Hardy thing now because, like, for the last month, you've pretty much seen him ball out. And there's games where he's playing 27 minutes and then there's games where he's playing 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And, like, it makes no sense because worst case, even if we don't get our pick this year, I'm pretty sure at this point we're not going to trade him. But you have the opportunity to say, hey, you know what? Somebody might want this guy that can come either off the bench or score and give you 20 instantly. You can get a pick. You can get something.
Well, I re-listened, and this is in your podcast feed if you really want to be a sicko and go listen. It was the 25th episode of the Mavs Moneyball podcast. It was July 1st, 2019. You can find this in your feed. I went and looked for it and listened. It's Josh and I losing our shit about the Mavericks just failing on the opening night of free agency in 2019 and having no plan. And I'm listening to this and I'm just like, we talked about this. This was going on 4 years ago, whatever. going on 4 full years ago where we're complaining about how the Mavericks never take on assets in terms of draft picks or anything like that. They still haven't done it. And I want to say it's been over 15 years. It might be close to 20 years since they've taken on a first-round pick for anything. It is nuts.
It makes no sense. Like, I actually listened to that a couple weeks ago. It just makes me laugh. Just because of just that whole night, what was going on. Because you sign Porzingis, but you see all these moves happening, and you find out we're trying to wait to see if Danny Green's going to come to the Mavericks or the Lakers. Mm-hmm. You know, like stuff like that. And it's like, what are you waiting for? Then you have to settle on DeLon Wright.
Yeah,
it's little things like that. You mentioned earlier about the 03 draft when we got Josh Howard and we ended up, signing Daniels, and then, a couple years later, we got Devin Harris. And, look at these young guys, these athletic guys. Look at these guys that can defend, that can cut, do all these things. And we were able to build a title team off of that. And, Dirk was obviously the constant, so we were able to keep that up for 4 or 5 more years until we were able to get a championship. But it's like, after that championship, I don't know if Cuban just settled at that. But it's like, bro, you drafted decent enough at the time. You had decent players that, they were benefiting your team. Where you can make trades, or you can do things. You were making decent under the bench signings that were helping your team out. Now it's to a point where I don't know if he's just being cheap and doesn't want to pay some money, or if he's just kind of like, well, I like what I got. Network, Jay Kidd comes around, hey, that's my buddy. I didn't bother. I'm pretty positive he didn't go through a coaching search because that's crazy. Carl out a kid literally in I feel like a day or two, and it makes no sense. Hell. Rick Carlisle recommended the coach to you, and
see, that feels like a troll job, and he didn't realize it was happening. Meaning Cuban, because he's like, yeah, bring in Jason Kidd, that point guard who I didn't really get along with. I mean, granted, they won a championship, so shit gets worked out. Professionals work stuff out. It's just, I like the hiring of Kidd as we get further away from it. A lot of us who are in here criticized the hire and were like, man, they're really using Dirk in an unfair way. Yeah.
He was a meet you.
And
because if you say something bad, it's like, what, are you going to question Dirk? I mean, he recommended that we should get.
Yeah, and Dirk popped in like he's showing up for his fantasy football draft after doing no work and is like, hey, let's Joe Montana, number 1. Let's go draft him. I don't know.
And the problem with that was just the fact that it wasn't even like all the other stuff off the court. That's neither here nor there. Obviously, that's bad. But the fact that we didn't want Kid because he's a good coach. Just being honest, he's not a good coach. Like, how many guys will get a third chance when he failed in his first 2 stops miserably?
Well, the developmental stuff is what's interesting, and I think with the Lakers, he served a good vibes role. But as the head coach, he looks like a deer in headlights.
Yeah, he was a good vibes guy when he's not the main guy.
Right.
He's doing what he's doing as the assistant coach, is not running practice. He's just like, hey, come on, guys, let's go. But that's what he's good at. And that's fine. That's no problem. As the head coach, it's out. I'm complaining at this point. But, yeah, if anybody wants to check out the thread, I'm going to start on Twitter pretty soon and then maybe make a blog or maybe write for your blog. I don't know.
Sam, you should contact me on both fronts. We're getting ready to kick Xavier to the curb. Just kidding, Xavier. He doesn't come in here anymore. And so it's most of the people who do stuff for this, I found through this. I'm not, it's fun. So as the off season comes up and anybody has thoughts, if you want to pitch something to me, we can run one-offs. I do that all the time. Committing to a regular role with our staff is actually quite hard because I'm a bit of a hard ass, but if you got thoughts, please do. Please send them to me.
Oh, definitely. Well, I'll definitely give you a heads up. But like I said, I appreciate everything that you do. Like I said it in the last space, even though we were just down bad. It's fun when you come in here because it's just you could just vent and everybody just lets out their frustration.
That's right.
And you're like, I'm good. I'm good now. So I appreciate what you do, Kirk. You have a good night.
You too, buddy. Okay. We're done here. We're at an hour, and I said we were going to go a half hour, but I'm a sicko. Again, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to our YouTube page. I'm going to learn more about this StreamYard thing. I think I may do something like a test during the day at some point and maybe not actually, I don't know. I'm always embarrassed like doing stuff for the first time because it's performing is not the right word, but you're doing something in front of a bunch of people, and if you fuck up, you're fucking up in front of a bunch of people, and that's no fun. But we'll see what we're doing. I really appreciate you guys hanging out, and head over to Mavs Moneyball where we've got some good posts up. That Luka pass was preposterous. Man, I'm going to be thinking about that for a while. Everybody have a good day, and we'll be back here on Wednesday night. Go Mavs.